Hey, family, welcome to another edition of Cool Jazz Conversations. My name is Marcellus, Shepard, the Bassman, and man, oh man, I am so glad to hop into this one today. We are so pleased and blessed to have amongst us two-time Emmy-winning composer, arranger, producer, and bassist, Tony Saunders. Welcome to Cool Jazz Conversations. How you doing, bruh?
Man, I'm glad to be here, man. So glad that you decided to do an interview on me, man. I'm excited totally, and I'm up, ready to go.
Well, man, you talking about you're so excited that we wanted to talk to just you. You acting like you're not one of the biggest things in contemporary jazz right now, man. It has to be a good feeling.
It is really exciting to have your music accepted is really a wonderful feeling, and to be, the other day, one of the girls that I grew up with, Nikita Tremaine, she sings background in the group Train, and she was on her way to the airport in Vegas, and she said, "Tony, I listened to this song and the beat goes on, and I'm bouncing in the car, and then they go, 'That's Tony Saunders,' and she said, 'Let me call my boy,' and she called me up, and she was all excited. She said, 'Tony, I just finished hearing your new song on the radio,' and that makes me good when my friends, call me up and say, 'Hey, Tony, that was bumping.' You know what I'm saying? That's what you do this for, to get the adulation, not only of fans, but your friends and family. You want to make everybody proud, so that they know when you put in those long hours, because I do 16, 18-hour days sometimes.
Wow.
I can't do them like every day, but I do them. Or I'll start the day I'm in San Francisco, I'm in Oakland, I live in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area. I live on the East Bay side and the Oakland side. I'll start my day here, and then I'll work here for a while, and then I'll go to LA, and work in LA for the rest of the day. I hop on the freeway, and in 5 hours, I'm in LA, and I'm working down there too. You know what I mean? In fact, some people think I live down there. And if they call me right now, I say, "Hey, I'll be there tonight. Let's work tonight." And I could be there, and we could jump on it. And I've done a lot of sessions like that. And that's how I've gotten to actually get to work with a lot of people in LA, because I'm willing to drive 5 hours away and, come out of they call it, the upper crest. We live up here in beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, to come down to LA and deal with the smog and the fog. I come from the fog and go to the smog. You know what I mean? But I'm willing. Wherever they let me play, I'm gonna go play. But I've gotten to play with like so many of those guys down there that I just dreamed about playing with. But now I play with them, and they played on my projects, and it is just like I thought it would be. You know what I mean? Like when I got to play with Paul Jackson Jr., man, he plays. I didn't have to tell him anything. He played the perfect part on my song. That was just like so good. I'm playing with Gail Johnson. Gail is so good. I mean, we're like brother and sister. Like we work. You know what I mean? I go to her house, or sometimes I just send her the bass track with me playing the melody and the bass line, and she fills in the chords, the exact stuff and I don't have to tell her nothing. She just puts the right stuff, you know what I mean? And that's a blessing, when you can have that kind of conversation between two people. And they're these people that are, she's been Norman Brown's musical director forever. She's played with everybody, and she brings it. She brings it. She ain't no joke. You know what I mean? She brings it. And, to have that kind of camaraderie, and then we're friends, we get along, you know what I mean? We're friends. She comes to the house, she stays at my house if she's up here, you know what I mean? That's really, really a great thing. It's just like you. If you came to San Francisco, you better call me up, you know what I'm saying? So we can go to the spot, we can go do what you want to do, so I can share some more stuff with you, just like you're sharing with me. It's a wonderful feeling. And to have that, to be able to play with Paul Jackson Jr., Jeff Lorber, Niels, these guys, they've all taught me a lot, and it's added to my vocabulary in music. Plus, it made me stay up on my game because, to play with them, you got to be good.
Yes,
So, it was funny because I was listening to Jeff Lorber, and he goes like, well, what happened? They asked him, he says, what happened if you don't practice for a couple of days? Well, I said, I know it, but you might not know it. If I don't practice for a week, you might notice it. You know what I mean? And it's the same way with me. I got to practice every day. Otherwise, you know, the game gets, you know, the game catches up with you. So, you know, it's a definite thing. I mean, when you're in the music business, you got to constantly put in. You know what I mean? You got to constantly give of yourself so that you can keep getting the rewards.
Most definitely. You know, I just had Jeff on the program last month before, so it was good to catch up with the Godfather. That's what I call him, Jeff Lorber there. But you know, if you will, you were talking about a friend of yours who heard you on the radio. Take us back to the first time that you, in fact, heard yourself on the radio. How did Tony Saunders feel?
My alarm clock went off. This is 1981. My alarm clock went off, and my song was playing on the radio. And I was going like, you know, I was looking around, you know, for something else other than the clock, you know, to be playing my song. And I was going like, well, what did I do? Did I trigger something? But my song was actually on the radio. It was a song called "When Will My Love Be Right?" And I wrote it for Robert Winters in fall. And it came out, and he had just had a huge hit, Magic Man, and that was the next single. And, you know, it came on the radio. My alarm clock went off. The song was on. I was going like, wow. And it was funny because it came at a time when I had just broken up with the girl who was, or she had broken up with me. You know, she told me that I just wasn't right for her. And so I wrote the song, "When Will My Love Be Right?" In fact, when I wrote the song, she came home that day and she said, "When did you write that song?" I was going, "Today." And she goes, "Oh, we got to talk about something." And I was like, well, I was devastated. I thought I had fallen in love because this girl had come up to me at a club and said, "I really love you. I want to be with you forever." And she was so beautiful. I said, I fell for it. I was like, yes. I mean, she was the first really beautiful woman to walk up to me and say, I love everything about you just by looking at you. You know what I mean? And so if you saw where she lived and where she took me, it was all in the woods, right? All in the backwoods, right? Because we were playing out in this place called Marshall, California, population 50, right? Mm-hmm. So she lived in this place called Inverness, right? So I had to go up all kind of back roads in the dark to get to her house, right? So that was Saturday night. Monday, I didn't know she was married or what, but I had to see this girl, right? So I went back and found her house and went and knocked on the door. And she went, "Tony, what you doing here?" I said, "Hey, you said that this was forever, so I'm back." You know, I'm back. And I didn't know if she was married, what. You know, she had kids. She had 2 kids. And the kids were like, "Mommy, who's this?" And I said, "That's your new stepdaddy." This is a for real story. And I stayed with her for like 7 years. And 7 years, man. It was an amazing time. She was a little older than me. So when I learned a lot of stuff with her that I did later in life, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like we used to go horseback riding. You know, from her house, I would go down to the bay and be at the bay at like 7 in the morning where the bay would be still. You know, it was like stuff that older people would do. But I was 21 when I met her. And I was 21 and she was 35. And, but she was, you know, she was a model, you know, she was a model and she was a great mom and she did Scrimshaw and she was a great girl. She was a great girl. We always had an affinity for each other. And even after we broke up, we would see each other on the streets and we would go and we would hang out that day because, you know, she just said, you know, because there was just something about the vibe, you know what I mean? And it was a great learning experience because when you're a young guy with an older woman, you know, you learn a couple of things. You learn a couple of things. And I appreciate that learning period. Of course, my mom would say, you know, when we come in the house with my mom said, "You need to be in here with us. You don't need to be back there with my son. You need to be in here with us, with the grown folks and playing." Because she was just 3 years younger than my mom. And
Oh
my
wow.
mom would say, "You need to be in here with us."
She was a cougar in the making almost there.
Oh, she was a cougar. Except I didn't know about that. I just know she was beautiful and she was great to me. You know what I mean? And I learned a lot of things, and I grew up. And she was like the from the high school girlfriends. It was a lot different than her and the high school girlfriends are my young college days. It was like somebody with a program that was already established, that had a house. That was already setting up stuff. I mean, I bought a horse. And we all, if we would have stayed longer, we would have bought stuff together. You know what I'm saying? But I did learn about being a grown up, and I helped her with her kids for like 5 years. You know what I mean? And the kids are still friendly to me. You know what I mean? So that definitely was definitely.
Well, I mean, you are their stepdaddy.
Yeah, I was for a minute. I was the stepdaddy for a minute. And and it was a great experience, man. It was a great experience, and she was a great girl.
I can't imagine. Do me a favor, if you turn your microphone down just a little bit.
Okay, just turn it down a little bit.
Just a little hot, So let's take a step back and well, we already did take a step back in time, but music was pretty much in your veins from the time you came out the womb, being that your father was the great Marcellus Saunders, B3 organist, and played with so many greats out there, legends, in fact, Miles Davis, B.B. King, and others. Man, talk about your father and his presence in your life and music, and what you were surrounded by growing up musically.
Well, my dad was like a musical genius, and he. So I was around great people from when I was really young. In fact, one story that I like to tell is that, I was my dad was in the room with Herbie, talking to Herbie Hancock, and they were in there having a conversation. And so my dad got on my case because I was drifting away from the lesson and playing my own music, right? The stuff, because I was going to conservatory from when I was really young, and we had to play, straight ahead, read out the book, conservatory music, but I had this little vibe that I played, and it's still, if you heard it today, you would know that it's the Tony Saunders vibe, because I've just gotten better at it. You know what I mean? But that song still had the essence of how my chords sound and everything. So Herbie made a deal with my dad. He said, Merle, if he does his lesson for an hour, after that, can he do his own music? And my dad was like reluctant to say, yeah, okay. Thank Herbie then got you out of trouble, because I was ready to tear your butt up. Much money as we paying for this conservatory. You need to. So that established me to do my own thing and to write my own music. You know what I mean? And the first song that I ever wrote, I still remember it. And if you heard it, like I say, my music today is more refined, and I've gotten better at it. But I still had those voicings that I used to hear, because when I was growing up, I was listening to my dad. I was listening to Joe Sample. I was listening to Herbie, of course, and I was listening, so when Herbie was blowing up, when Watermelon Man came out, the new version with Paul Jackson playing bass, and all of that trip, that's when I was in high school, and when Stanley Clarke first came out. So I was hearing Return to Forever, and Stanley and Herbie. So I was hearing all of that stuff that was going in my head when I was in high school, and when I was like first playing the bass a lot, and so I loved that music, and that's what went into me. And I mean, when I got to meet Herbie and Paul Chambers, Wynton Kelly was my godfather. So I got a picture sitting on Paul Chambers' lap. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, it's like unbelievable stuff. I remember Dionne Warwick came to my house, and I didn't realize it, but her husband was playing drums with my dad for a while, okay. and so Dionne Warwick was there, because I was wondering, how is this drummer driving this Benz around, or driving this Rolls Royce to these little, they wasn't the, it wasn't $1,000 a night gig. You know what I mean? They was just playing at the place for the week. My dad had this regular gig at this place called Jackson Sutter. They played there 6 nights a week. And on Sunday, they did a jam session at 6 a.m., because back then, that was in the early 60s. So all the black musicians stayed at one hotel. It wasn't like segregation had happened yet. Not that it has. I'm not saying, but, I'm just saying. But all the black guys stayed at one hotel, and they all came to my dad's jam session. I have a picture here in my studio of my dad and Miles playing. You know what I mean? And because George Benson came to my dad. I remember George Benson coming to my dad, and my dad said, I had just seen him, right? And I heard him sing. And this was before he got famous singing, right? And he was asking my dad, do you think I should sing? I was kind of like, did he hear his voice? I was like, oh my God. That guy was saying yesterday at the gig, and he was the first person I heard scat too. And I was like going, I said, Dad, did you tell him to sing? And my dad said, of course, son, I told him to sing. And then like a couple of years later, he came out with that song that was a hit on Weekend in L.A., everything, I forget, Are We Really Happy Here? I can't remember the name. Masquerade, yeah. Yes, came out with Masquerade. And then my dad was musical director for Randy Crawford, so we opened up for him, George Benson, for some like Nassau Coliseum dates, right? When he was filling those Coliseums. And George was like going, yeah, your dad was one, Tony, that told me to sing. And I was going like, wow, he remembered that. You know what I mean? And, getting to be around Ronnie Foster and all those guys, that was really good. Stanley Banks, who I ended up I replaced him with Esther Phillips. I didn't replace him. He left Esther Phillips forever to go with George full time.
I haven't heard in a while, man.
Stanley Banks, the man with the tambourine. He played the tambourine and the bass. He had the groove, man. Stanley was happening, and he's still happening. You know what I mean? And it was great to be involved. Just in those kind of circles. I remember when Dionne Warwick came to my house, my friends was like going, "Hey man, wasn't that Dionne Warwick?" I said, "Yep, 50 Cent. You can come look at her." So I was an entrepreneur even back then.
A little money on the side.
Gave me a little money. Sure. I said, Dionne, I hope this doesn't bother you, but my friends just want to look at you because you got that hit, and they don't believe that you was in my house. So they came in, and then I think Johnny Taylor came there a week later because Johnny Taylor's manager and my dad's manager were the same for a while. And Johnny Taylor was there, came with them tight pants on, and my friends cracked up, and it was great. It was great. I would always have those experiences where people would crack. Sly Stone, Sly Stone. I remember Sly Stone coming.
Sly gave you your first piano or organ.
He gave me my organ when I was 10 years old. He bought me a miniature B3. It was my Christmas present. I was like, I came in that room and that B3 was back there. I couldn't believe it. It was great. And I used to walk his dog Stoner. And he had this little dog. He had this Jaguar. And so my dad, he came to my dad and said, he came to my dad and asked my dad, because he had this radio show, right? He was on KSOL, Sylvester Stewart. You know what I mean? And he said, Merle, do you think I should do the career or do these gigs? I'm starting to get the vibe. And my dad was encouraging him to do Sly Stone. You know what I mean? I'd go over there every day after I got out of school and watch him rehearse. And my dad would always wonder, why you guys come home and go right to sleep? So when my dad went over there, he said, he went, y'all need to come on up out of here because y'all need to get the work done and then come over here. Because y'all coming over here and just in the ambiance, y'all don't know what's going on, but y'all in the ambiance, that's why y'all getting sleepy when you come home, because we come home and fall asleep at 8 o'clock at night. That stuff was in the air. And it was just, it was making that great music.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience, you know. In fact, when he was driving up here, when he just got the settlement that he last got, he was riding with a lawyer friend of mine's son, and he had my record in there, and he called me up on the phone. He goes, "Tony Saunders, you still trying to play that sophisticated music like your daddy? Like your daddy taught you? You trying to play them sophisticated chords? I hear all that. You know, I hear all that. You know, just need to do the funk. Leave that other stuff alone." I said, "Come on, Sly, that's what come out of me." He said, "Well, you just sophisticated like your daddy, playing them sophisticated chords. I hear you. You know, I like your music, but you playing them sophisticated chords, like you just like your daddy." And I couldn't. I was like, he said, "Tony, this Sylvester." I was like, "Hey, Sly, what's up? How you doing?" You know, I was like a little kid. So glad to hear from him. You know, and I was going like, "How'd you get my number?" I said, "Oh, I'm riding with." He was riding with this. The guy that was his attorney, son, and you know, and those are great memories. You know, getting to hang out around him and the people that I've hung around. It's been you know, a great thing. I think one of the greatest things was when I got to one time Larry Graham had people from the audience come up and play bass, so they pushed me up there to play with him, and he said, "Boy, I taught you," and you know, he whispered in my ear, "Boy, I taught you, and you're doing good. You're doing good. You ain't no slouch. You ain't no slouch with that bass." But I still couldn't do the thumb stuff as fast. He says, "Okay, now we're going to play this song." And I was going, I looked at his thumb. I couldn't believe how fast his thumb was going. And I was going like, dang, no wonder you're so good. Because he just was whipping the bass. But he did whisper in my ear. He said, "Tony, I taught you." You know what I mean? And I'm glad to see that you come out.
Man, some incredible stories. And, you know, as it pertains to your father, it really sounds like your father was kind of like the life coach, the career coach.
Yeah.
Well, consultant, if you will, for so many people out there.
Oh, yeah, he was. He only had 3 kids, but he was a father to so many people. You know what I mean? And one of his great things was when my parents split up, he went to live with my uncle and them back in New York. And out of that, Ray Chu, you know, from Ray Chu and the Crew.
Yeah.
And now he's the MD for Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. So that was who I had to measure against. Because Ray Chu got the gig with Melba Moore when he was like 14 or 15. You know, and he went from Melba Moore to Ashford and Simpson when he was 17, when he was still at School of the Arts. So what's really funny is him and Marcus Miller both went to School of the Arts in New York at the same time. And neither one of them played the instrument that they're known for. Marcus graduated playing the woodwinds from the School of the Arts, and Ray Chu, not keyboards, he graduated playing drums.
Wow!
Because he was a great drummer. In fact, he came out here and played drums with my dad, you know, in the summer. So, but he did always play piano, you know, and that was who I had to look up to when we go back for the family events, you know, and I was going like, whoa. I thought I was good. I went back east to listen to Ray Chu, and he had like in his little crew that came to the house was Nat Adderley Jr., Tinker Barfield, Francisco Centeno, you know, just great bass players. And you know, God, he just passed away. A great piano player. Can't remember his name, but perhaps I'll remember it. He had just a great feel, and I'm glad I got to see him play before he passed away. But these guys were playing with all the New York cats. You know what I mean? When I got to play on sessions with Yogi Horton, all those cats that played with Luther, you know what I mean? And because of Ray Chu. You know, I tell him when I was coming to New York, he'd get me on sessions and say, "Now you can't make no mistakes." You know what I mean? Because he's around Ralph McDonald, Anthony Jackson, all these people. He took me to their studios. You know what I mean? And because he's playing on Wine Light with Grover. He's on Wine Light. I didn't on Mr. Magic record. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he was like, he was the man for the commercials. I met Will Lee. You know what I mean? Back in the day. Will Lee used to do all the Coke commercials, both playing bass and singing, because he got that voice to sound like a black guy. You know, so he was able to do every kind of session. You know, so it was really, really good. So to get in and those guys were really inspiring. In fact, David Spinoza, I wrote a song called "Feel Like Falling." It's written just because of me hanging out a day with David Spinoza. Mm-hmm. And you know, and those guys were just like great musicians. Stanley Turrentine. My cousin Eddie Moore played drums with Stanley Turrentine. You know, when Stanley Turrentine had that hit on Pieces of a Dream.
Oh, yeah.
And
love that.
yeah. And that was when they talk about smooth jazz. That was when the smooth jazz was just starting.
Yes,
I got to play with George Howard. You know, George Howard was ridiculous. He was smooth and cool. You know,
soprano saxophone.
Oh man, he had a call. Oh, yeah. And do I ever cross your mind?
Oh,
we're talking about good songs.
Yes,
we're talking about good songs. That's a song that you're gonna get your girlfriend with. You play that song. That was one of them ones.
That's when you're gonna get your life right, your love right.
Yeah, you definitely get your love right, and you get your all right.
All right.
You're all right for all night if you ever listen to that song. Because they was like, woo, that was some good music, man. Yeah. And getting to meet Ashford and Simpson and all the people my cousin played with, and just to hang around him and to see his expertise, and to go to the studio and meet Steve Gadd, and play with some of these really great people. My play aunt had this Sephra Herman. She had this place called Herman's Sammy's, and they did the contracting for a lot of those sessions, and they'd be writing all of the charts for everybody. So when everybody would come there to get their charts, you know what I mean, for whatever they were. Ralph McDonald for whatever he was doing in his studio. I forget some of the other people that were doing that there, but they were all famous. Leon Pendarvis, all of these people that were like happening in the 70s. I remember with Luther was just singing. He would come there. Luther was just singing background on jingles. And Patty Austin was just singing background on. The first time I met Patty Austin, she was like, "Why you can't talk?" I said, "Because you Patty Austin, and then that's Luther." And she said, "You want to come help me walk my dog?" So I got to walk her dog with her when I was about 14, 15 years old. And she was like, she was already beginning to be famous.
Bro, you did a lot of dog walking between Sly Stone and Patty Austin.
Sly Stone's dog, Patty Austin, dog. I told her
this music thing doesn't work out for you. You got to.
Yeah, I'm a good dog. I could open a dog walker business. Yeah, I'm dog friendly. Plus, Plus, I'm charm. What do they people say? I'm charming. So I can open up a charm school to help you. Or to help you meet that special person.
I don't know. The first time it didn't work out too good for you.
No, but you know what though? That girl, I saw her when she was 50, 60, 70, and 80. You know what I mean? So we would get back together for a day or so, even then. You know what I mean? She saw me walking down the street when she was 70 years old. She said, "Tony Saunders."
That's not forever love.
Yeah. She said, "What's up?" And we'd go hang out. You know what I'm saying? We'd go hang out. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Family, if you were just joining us, our special guest today is a brother who's quite the storyteller, and at some point in time, he's either going to create a new show called Storytime with Tony Saunders, or he's going to write his memoirs. But the great Tony Saunders is our guest today. You were talking about session work, studio work, and I know you've done quite a bit, not only producing for scoring for film, but also for television, and then, of course, being a session musician. Which one of those is kind of like your main love, or what do you enjoy the most?
What I enjoy the most, so what my dad did really good, he interpreted people's music. And when he was their MD, he could really make their music blossom. Because my dad was the first person to hire Johnny Mathis, right? Mm-hmm. So, my dad hired Johnny Mathis in high school.
Wow.
And Johnny Mathis had to make a choice because he was good at the long jump and the high jump. And so he could have been an Olympic long jumper. He was that good. Yeah, he was that. He still has the record at my high school for the long jump and the high jump. You know what I mean? Because he was that good. And he was also a great singer. And my dad was the first person to hire him in a band, called him Gatemouth, and because he had braces. And he was smooth. And they had a group, and they won Battle of the Bands in 1955, 53, 54, 55. My dad had a group with Johnny Mathis in it. And it's funny because his bass player, my dad's bass player, Frank Roberts, unbeknownst to him, me and his daughter were best friends in high school. And we didn't know the connection that he had played bass with my dad until one day she was at my house. And I was going, Melvina, what you doing at my house? And she said, well, that's my Uncle Merle. And I'm going, wait a minute, that's my Uncle Frank. Because we went to the 49er games every Sunday with my dad. Me and my dad, we went to, because my dad played football with, was in the Air Force with Walter Beach, who was number 49 on the Cleveland Browns, played with Jim Brown. So not a lot of people have had Jim Brown sleep in their bunk bed, but I had Jim Brown sleep in my bunk bed, and then the next day walked to the stadium with me, and he played against the 49ers, because they used to play Cleveland every preseason back in the day. And we would walk to the stadium, you know, it was amazing. So I have pictures with Jim Brown when I was a little kid, you know, and getting to be around all these kind of people. Him, Wilt Chamberlain, you know, they were around my dad, and you know, it was an incredible experience. Yeah, you're right. I got memoirs I could write.
You do, bro.
I got some stories.
Seriously, you need to put all of this on record.
We just lost. So you asked me what's my favorite thing to do? My favorite thing to do is produce and arrange, because my dad did that really well, and then I'm second generation of doing that. So I'm pretty user friendly, and where, like Jimmy Jam say, you have to, when he was working with Janet Jackson, he had to live with her for a minute to really get her vibe. And, you know, to really, so I feel you gotta, I'm user friendly. A lot of singers come to me and I put the music to their words, and then I help them sing the songs, you know, like I hear them. And, you know, because you gotta be user friendly. You can't be like, it's not my way or no way. You can't be like, because people don't work like that. To get the most out of somebody, you gotta encourage them with what they already have. You gotta know them.
Get their veins a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta have some of their blood in your blood. Yeah. And that's probably my favorite thing. And you know, so I'm getting, like, my relationship with Gail has really made my music blossom, because, you know, we're friends, and, you know, we don't have the boy-girl thing happening. We're just musicians. Right. You know what I mean? So I respect her as a musician, and then there's no boy-girl thing, so you don't have to worry about that. So we just nailing these last 2 albums I've done. They've really risen up because she has helped me with every aspect of my career. Niels, I say the same thing. Niels, I played a solo one time for Niels, and he says, that's all right. I'm going, hey, what you talking about? I just played my butt off. He said, yeah, that's all right, but I need a little bit more. And I was like, well, okay. Wow. And so I gave him a little bit more. You know what I mean? So he said, yeah, you need to dig a little deeper. Tony, that's some surface music you're playing right there. And he says, that's not something that somebody's going to take and that they're going to hold it and it's going to be everlasting. You know what I mean? So I took that. The reason why I did those Whispers songs on my records is because I've known Scotty and Walter since I was 18. They know my mom. I got a poster, a picture in my hallway that I took from my mom's house that's from Scotty and Walter, and all the Whispers, and they wrote to Betty, not to Tony, and they were writing to my mom, you know, saying, hey, what's up? You know, glad to see you at our show, and and her husband, Jimmy B, was their best friend and helped them with a lot of business, helped them get on Capitol Records from Solar. When they were leaving Solar Records, I know that he was influential in them getting on Capitol, and then helped them get their last deal with I forget what label they're on, but you know, he was influential in helping with the business side. So I know how Scotty sings and how Walter sings. So I was able, like on Rocksteady, I know how Rocksteady goes because I listened to that song since I was a kid. I know just how they sing. And so I was able to interpret that on the bass. And the beat goes on. I had to listen to that a few times because I didn't know that as well. But
Rocksteady though, bro, first time I heard that Rocksteady, man, I was up in here dancing, boy. You hear me? I mean, the toes were tapping, the fingers were snapping, and I was straight in the groove. And then as the beat goes on, man, matter of fact, I just played that earlier today because I just produced the Cool Jazz Countdown before I hopped on here with you, and that's the song we're playing this week. But man, incredible. So let's go ahead and talk about the brand new album. First off, man, Sexy Something was an incredible album, first and foremost, right?
Hey man, that was a fun record, man. That was a fun, and I didn't get to the thing about that record is the record release was the day the world shut down, March 20th. That was the day that the whole world shut down, and that was the day of my record release. I'm sitting right where I'm sitting right now, crying like a baby because I'm going, I can't get my music. I can't play my music. The show, you mean my show's canceled? I was going, yeah, they was calming me down because I was going like, I can't go to the club. Oh man! So I didn't really get to do Sexy Something.
You just your album shut the world down. That's what your album.
I'd rather look at that than the other way than what really happened. Yeah, but it was a trip because my new record, it was originally called In the Meantime because I made it like I'm doing this in the meantime. It was originally called that. And then one day I woke up and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to call it All About Love because there's all these love songs on it. The Look of Love, Forever Yours, and the beat goes on, just Between Us, Unlimited Access.
Yeah.
That's...
I was going to say that, but for Sexy Something, although it came out the day that the world shut down, this was the second most played album of 2020, right?
Yeah.
An album that owned the charts for most of last year and a good portion of this year as well. So I was very surprised when I saw that you had a new album coming out when Sexy Something is still charting.
It's number 99 this week.
Exactly. Matter of fact, I don't know if you realize this, but you are on the charts in the top 100 3 times right now.
Wow.
Okay? You have All About Love in the top 5. You have Sexy Something at 98. And then you happen to be at number 99 with the other group that you play with, the Noteworthy Band.
Oh, yeah, the Noteworthy Band. So that was the Blue Note House Band. And so during the pandemic, we got together and we just start producing great music together, the 4 of us. And, we come there with our mask and stuff on. And one guy we couldn't go around because his wife was really sick, the piano player, so he would send him the music. But that basically started because, I realized that Sexy Something was doing really well. And after not being around people for a minute, I had to make sure that I could still play. You know what I mean? And I could still do my thing. So me and the drummer just started playing together, and we would play for a couple hours, and then we started developing these little tunes. And then we invited the guitar player over. And then once he got involved, we started calling ourselves the Noteworthy Band. And, because it was worthy of some people taking notes. And we all play in the Blue Note House Band. And we play on Wednesday nights up at the Blue Note in Napa. And, we play behind whoever. And we just had a good rapport between us. And then they would support my music. You know what I mean? Sometimes I play the tracks, and sometimes they learned the songs when we'd have enough time. They'd learn the songs. And but Rocksteady stayed number 1 for a long time. And young kids were coming in and going, Tony, can you play Rocksteady? And I'm going, yeah, I can play that. I can't believe these young kids coming in going, they stand up there, Rocksteady, Daddy. They say that's my song. And these incredible, young kids coming in, young girls, coming in going, hey, that's my song. Can you play that? And I'd look at her and I'd go like, yeah, of course. Of course. Of course I could play that song for you. And, it was great. Yeah, it was the second most played CD. That got me through that pandemic. So I thank everybody for making it the second most. And one of the songs, Chasing the Dream, which was written about a friend of mine's wife who passed away. And, she did get to hear the song, but it just went over like 1 million streams. You know, and that's pretty special.
Yeah.
You know, when you can get that many people to listen to your music.
Wow.
And get it documented. Yeah, and she got to hear the song. And it was like nothing. This is a girl, she was such a good friend. I could call her after the gig and say, hey, I'm hungry. And she'd say, okay, I'll leave you a sandwich on the doorstep when you pass by. You know what I mean? And it would be out there. It'd still be warm. She might have put it in a warmer, so it'd still be warm. You know what I mean? You know, and it was she made chicken and she knew I loved cranberry. So I'd have chicken and cranberry or turkey and cranberry sandwich. That was me. That was my sandwich. But she made it for me, and you know, she was. I never will. She's always in my heart, Alicia, and she was just a great girl, and you know, she'll always be in my heart. And 2 weeks before she passed away, she got to hear the song, you know, so she heard, and she was in hospice, but they was going like, I said, you know, should I leave? Because she says, no, she's up and happy, you know, because they was only letting me go up there for a certain amount of time. And then there's like, no, she likes you here, Tony. You can stay as long as you want. And another friend of mine that plays percussion with me, James Henry, he went up there and played some percussion for her. You know what I mean? And these are the kind of things that, you know, people don't ask you to do or don't want you to do. You know, and you know, but it's from the heart, and it's you know, it's something special that nobody knows that I do. I donate my time, some of my free time, to Bread and Roses, and we go into the prisons. And I got an award for going into the prison the most last year, and before they shut it down. And it wasn't just for the music. They actually invited me to the groups, you know, because they wanted to hear me talk, and they wanted to, you know, catch up what's going on the outside. You know what I mean? And now some of them that are out, you know, they come to my shows and they help out. You know what I mean? And they're good people. You know what I mean? I met some really good friends. They have become good friends. And I have artwork that a couple of them made for me up here on the wall. You know what I mean? And they're going to be at my show October 26th at Yoshi's in Oakland.
Nice. All right, well, good stuff, man. So listen, All About Love.
All About Love.
Your debut for the Baja TSR label. What attracted you to that label?
Okay, so Sexy Something came out on San Francisco Records, right? The owner of that label was starting to get up there in age. He was approaching 70, right? And he's going like, I was making all these demands on him. He's going like, I need to go here. I need to do this. I need to
slow down.
Yeah, and he was going like, hold it, Tony, hold it. You know what I mean? He says, I love you, but you need to find you a label that still got the young energy. And I don't mind you going out and finding one. It's not that I want to get rid of you. I'll continue to put out your music, you know. So, but you need to find somebody who's really still into this business like that. Because my hustle, this guy actually, the guy that at San Francisco Record, his name is Ron Umal, great guy. He hired me to work with Martha Reeves when I was 18 years old, because he worked in Associated Booking in New York. So he hired me at 18, and here it is, you know, now I'm up there in age, and I'm still with him, you know what I mean? So we got a lot of love, and he hired me to work on projects. Besides how he hired me, how I got on the label, I was producing something for him, and then he said, hey, do you want to put out your own stuff? And I was like, you know, I never really thought of it, but 10 years ago, I put out my first album, Romancing the Bass, and then Sexy Something was definitely on his label, and it was the best one that did the best on his label. And you know, so he said to find the label. So I called my friend in Florida, Doug Sinclair, who has a radio station. He owns a few radio stations in Florida, and I said, Doug, I got to find a new label. You know anybody I can go to? He says, yeah, I know a guy I can call. And so he called Tom. And then within me calling Doug, and when the first time I heard from Tom was only about an hour. You know what I mean? So Tom called me and he said, hey, Tony, you know, I heard that you're looking for a new label. And hey, I'd like to get first right of refusal on your new record. And I said, of course. Then I didn't even know who he was, right? I'm going like, yeah, right, this is a record label call me this quick. I just asked this guy. I'm looking for a new label. Now a label called me. And I'm going like, yeah, right. And then I found out that it was Neil's label who I worked with. And Neil's had already told me some good stories about the label, right? So I already knew some good things about the label. So I was going like, yeah, I want to be on Neil's label. Yeah, that sounds good. I didn't want to tell Neil's right away because he might say that I just jumped from what he said to try to be on the label with him.
Right.
And so time went by, the pandemic happened, and Tom called me back again in I think January or January, and said, Tony, where's that album at? And I said, oh, it's right here. You know, I'm a couple of weeks from finishing. And I said to him, I said, hey, why don't we make a gentleman's agreement that I bring it to you as soon as I'm finished mixing it? Because I was within 2 weeks of finishing mixing it. He said, yeah, but we have a gentleman's agreement that I'll listen to it first, and I can refuse it or whatever, but I'll tell you honestly if I want it or not. But I tell you, I already heard enough tracks. I tell you, I already want the record. Because he heard a track that I did with Adam Hawley, and he heard a track that I did with Greg Manning. So he said, you know, you already got some good stuff on there. And then he said, how many of these did you write? I said, I wrote most of them right now. And then, you know, I said I had 14 tunes. That's just like my last Sexy Something had 14 tunes also. And that was just what was in me at the time. So, you know, at first this was called In the Meantime. And then, because I was in the meantime during the pandemic, this is what I've been doing, y'all. Right. And I was going to call it In the Meantime, you know, kind of my little street thing. And then, you know, and then so I woke up one morning and I rolled over and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to call it All About Love. Because this record is really all about love, you know, that I've experienced during the pandemic. Let me switch it In the Meantime. Because I had even put it up on my website that if you want to buy my new record In the Meantime, you know, send money here and you'll get an autographed copy. And Tom said, oh no, we like All About Love. And then All About Love sounds like a good title. So then my old label, I mean, Tom was just really nice. He read through the contract with me line by line. You know, nobody does that. You know what I mean? Nobody does that. And plus when people put their money where their mouth is, you know what I mean? When they spend their money, when they spend their own money to get your project, that was like the old days to me. And I'm going like, wow, I'm actually getting money for doing what I like. And and I got a contract and I'm going to get to at least make 2 albums with them. Great, this is great. And he read me the contract. I said, oh, of course, yep. He sent me, I said, both these checks mine? He said, yeah. I said, great, I'm there. I'm the new guy on Baja TSR Records.
So Baja TSR now has on their roster the #1 and #2 artists of 2020.
Yeah, they do.
And already going into 2021, both of you are.
He's still hitting hard. He's
still right there.
Niels is still hitting hard. Niels' record is gonna last forever. He showed me what to do in music. And then I had a talk with Greg Manning. I always wanted to meet him because he was doing so many people's records. And he just so happened I was going to the studio in LA and it was my time to come in the studio and they said, hey, well, Greg Manning is still working. You know, so you're gonna have to, you know, after driving all the way to LA, I'm excited to get in the studio. I'm there. And they said, well, Greg Manning's not finished. And I'm going like, what? I said, well, I want to go in and meet Greg Manning because I wanted to meet him anyway. And so me and Greg started talking. And he says, yeah, Tony, I listen to your music. I want to tell you a couple of things about your music, what I think. And he said, I want you to add this little flavor to broaden your audience. And so he showed me a couple of things. And we did a song together. And of course, I took that, I dissected that, you know, and then I used his encouragement, you know, to work, because I would have never called up Adam Hawley had I not met Greg Manning. Because then I said, hey, I'm gonna work with the best cats because my music is worthy. And when I call up Adam was like, cool. I sent him a song at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. At 10 o'clock, he sent me back, hey, I think we can do this with it. You know, and I was going like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. So in 3 hours, you felt that? Oh, yeah. He said, oh, yeah, we cool. We cool. And me and Adam, we talk about family more than we talk about music, you know, because I encourage him with his family, his wife and his son, you know, I'm really proud of him for including his wife and son. I try to do that also, you know, and to include your family. You should see my grandkids. My grandkids hum the melody to these songs. And my granddaughter comes in and goes, "Grandpa, song." And she'll pick up these maracas. She'll pick up these little shakers, little shakers, right? And they put them back. When they finish with them, they put them back. That's why they still here. You know what I'm saying? So they come in here and they get their groove on, and we have a room full of people, and you know, we had the music choice on, right? Mm-hmm. And my song came on, and my granddaughter went, "Hey, everybody, shh, Grandpa's song's on." Shh, shh, shh. And she's 4 years old. Wow. 4 years old, man. And her and the 2-year-old, they come in here and they have a good time. So when I know I can get my grandkids that are young as 2, you know, dancing around to this music, it's incredible. My daughter told me that she said, "Pops, London's over here humming these songs because she said she knows the melody." I said, "Yeah, she knows she'll hum them with me." You know what I mean? And that's pretty good. When you can get somebody that young to hum the melody to a song, I knew that this will be a song for the masses. And you know, that's how that stuff, how I judge when I got it good enough. And plus, when people like your music, like Neil, when Tom Hayden from Baja, when he came to me, he likes the music and likes what I'm doing with my songs. I mean, because those songs come from my heart. I sit here and I write them out, you know, the best I can and get them to where I can. I can hear the finished song when I work on the song at the beginning. But I used to have to write out everything for everybody to play it. I used to have to tell everybody what to play. But now I can work in LA with the really great studio guys. And, you know, I've gotten to work with Paul Brown, Nils, Paul Jackson Jr., who's absolutely my favorite guitar player. I used to open up my show with his song. I was playing his solo from Steel, it's called Steel something. I forget the name of the song, but I used to open up the It was a Paul Jackson song. I used to open up my show with that.
Oh,
you know?
Still, yes. Still, it's 3 words. Still Small Voice.
Still Small Voice. That was my song. Yeah. That was Still Small Voices. Yes. I used to open up the show with that. Yeah. Playing his solo. Yeah. And they would be doing the chords while I'd be walking up to the stage and doing my thing. And then we'd go into it. You know, when I hit the stage, boom, we drop the funk on them. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And that's what basically it is. It's like nowadays, you know, some DJs go, some people that think they know smooth jazz go, "Well, I don't want to hear no vocals on smooth jazz." I'm going like, wait a minute. This Masquerade was the big, did you ever hear George Howard? Do I ever
cross your mind?
That was like huge. Come on now. And then these guys, you know, the song that Lenny Williams sang with Kenny G. You know, that song was huge. Come on now. So it's not. I said Brian Culbertson is basically like watching James Brown, but on the keyboards. You got Brian Culbertson up there dancing and doing his thing. He's like the James Brown of smooth jazz because that stuff is moving that stage, and people is up there bouncing. They don't even know why they bouncing. And you got lights and stuff going on, and a killer band. You know what I mean? The killer band, and they doing it. Matter of fact, we just lost Pee Wee a couple of days ago from James Brown's band. Pee Wee Ellis just passed away. Pee Wee Ellis just passed away. I got a chance to work with him. You know, as a kid, you know, James Brown would always go, "Hey, Pee Wee," you know what I mean? And then he'd come in on the sax. So I was lucky enough when I was 21 years old to play with Pee Wee Ellis and Dave Liebman in a band, man. And it was just like, man, I learned so much. Pee Wee, I learned so much producing from him because he had just done those CTI records, and he let me. He produced Esther Phillips, and I got to play on a song for her, and then I worked with her. You know, she was I got
She
a whole
was
memoir.
amazing. From a whisper to a scream.
From a whisper to a scream.
Yes,
She said one night, she said, what you do, Tony? And I said, nothing. And then she said, well, last night you could have fooled me. She asked my mama, she said, Betty, what you do? She said, what you need? And my mom said, I'll just have whatever drink my mom drank. And she said, Tony, you don't want nothing? I said, I'm cool. And she said, last night, you was drinking at Peru. You're going to try to act all good around your mama.
Put you out there.
Yeah, put me out there. And she said, no wonder you were showing out, because they used to let us open up, and we would play one of my songs to open up the show for her, and before she would come out. And we played a song of mine, and it so happened to be, we played a song called Tune for My Mom. And it was her song, and people said, yep, the reason why Tony going so crazy on that song, that's his mama right there. And, and Esther my mom hung out with Esther, even when I wasn't around. So it was really a good thing. Esther Phillips, she was out there when she was 9. She had her first hit with Johnny Otis. She was 9 years old.
Wow.
So she was out there on them drugs when she was 8, 9 years old. And she was famous 8, 9 years old. You know what I mean? And what can you say?
That is, bruh, let me tell you, at some point in time this year, as well, I don't know if things are going to slow down because, now that the world is slowly opening back up, I know your touring schedule is about to get crazy, but you have got to take an hour here, an hour there, turn on a microphone, and just start talking. Story time with Tony Saunders. I'm telling you, this is a podcast that the world needs to hear. It's a book that needs to be written. It's memoirs that need to live on till the end of time, because you are walking, talking music history. You are an encyclopedia of knowledge, and you've not only witnessed it, you've lived it. It's in your veins. It's in your bloodline. It's a part of your essence. And this is your contribution to society, your contribution to the world. So the music is amazing, and I simply thank you for it, Tony.
Yeah, I tell you, this last album, I really had a lot of fun making it. And when I listen to it, my wife can listen to it from song 1 to song 14 without, switching. Like, first, I want to hear my favorite songs. She just puts it on at the beginning and listens all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And that's really saying something. And then I've gotten a lot of people to call me about this record and to say that it's really good, a really good record, Tony. And that means something to me. And I like it. It's my first record that I really like, that I think that I'm doing my job. It's the first record that I have liked, that I've done, where I don't say, I could have done this better, I could have done this better. I say, no, this is a good capitalization of where I am today, 2021, almost 2022, huh? 2021, yeah. September 2021, this is where I'm at. And it's not a bad place. It's real cool getting to talk to great people like yourself, and, people like you call me every day. And, to be a contribution to life is important to me. And so getting to do these kind of things, that's what makes me tick. Making sure that my contribution is of essence. You know what I mean? Because I've learned I don't have those bad stories where people go, well, didn't somebody rip you off coming up? No. Mm-hmm. When I wrote a song for Francis Ford Coppola, I was in the movie Peggy Sue Got Married, and I was playing a song on the side, and he said, Tony, when did you write that? I said, today while I'm sitting here, because when you shoot, then you got like 3 hours till they do it again, right? So I was there with Kathleen Turner and Nicolas Cage, and I wrote this song, and he brought in a remote truck to record it. I didn't know nothing about this, right? He could have ripped me off, because I wouldn't know. I'm just glad to be there. I know I'm getting a check for $1,500 for one day of being in a couple scenes with Nicolas Cage. I'm cool. And I got a free hotel for 2 nights, and they bought barbecue, and we was getting to take all the barbecue they didn't eat. I was getting to take that back to the hood, because at that time I was teaching at Tam High School, and I was going to take that back to the kids, so we was going to barbecue all week at school. And Tupac went to that school at the time. Tupac had just came from Philly and went to Tam High. Another couple of groups made it 5150. And so we got kids that were doing stuff. And so, I was going to, tell them the movie experience. And it was a great, in fact, I had so much makeup on when I came back. My son saw me and he was going like, who are you coming in my house? Going up there to be with my dad's wife. My son didn't even recognize me. But Francis Ford Coppola brought in a remote truck. And then he said at the end, he said, Tony, I want you to come by my office because I want to show you how to make sure you log in everything, get your publishing company on it. Now, I have to split the publishing with you, but you can have the other half. And I still get royalties to this day from the stuff that I wrote on that movie, Peggy Sue Got Married. Of course, they're not as much as they used to be, but it's something.
Still something,
Still buy me a cup of coffee. It still buy me a Starbucks.
I know that's right. Well, man, it has been an incredible conversation, and I could talk to you all day long, bro. We're going to have to bring you back for another episode of Cool Jazz Conversations, but put your social media handles out there and your website so that folks can keep in touch with you, check out your live shows, and be able to get the CD as well.
Okay. Well, you can visit my website. It's TonySaunders.com. And if you go there and join my mailing list, I send you a free download. So you usually have the latest record that I put out. And if you do it now, you get And the Beat Goes On. So, that song's bumping, I will say, if I don't say so myself. And on Facebook, you go to Tony Saunders, bassist producer, and like me there. There's other Tony Saunders pages that are me. Make sure you see my picture. Because for a while, people are trying to imitate it for a while. But if you go there, I play live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I play for an hour, and sometimes I have people with me, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just play the tracks. But I do always put out an hour so that people can meet me. And I'm with Gina McCain, Major Scale Management, and Gina's in Washington, D.C., but you can get me through that, and I can be wherever you want me to be in a moment's notice. I'm user-friendly. All my kids are grown, so I can leave now. I'm just here for the grandkids, to help the grandkids get along. And great-grandkids. I got to let that up. Great-grandkids. But, and I'm on Instagram. It's at Saunders Bass, Instagram and Twitter at Saunders Bass. Both of them are the same, at Saunders Bass. And then my website is the best way to get me, or hit me on the Facebook pages. And I got a gig coming up at Yoshi's October 26th at 8 o'clock. It's the CD release party for this CD, All About Love. And I thank everybody who's really, really pushed All About Love. I thank all the radio because it's really got a warm welcome, and it's really climbing the charts, and I'm really happy about that. And a couple 2 or 3 cents comes in my pocket, and I'm happy about that too. You can go to my store, which is on my website, and get all of my recordings. If you get it from me, I make $5. If you get it from iTunes, I make 50 cents. So figure it out.
Yeah, there it is. That's real talk too, boy.
Yeah.
Well, good brother, thank you so much, family. That is going to do it for this edition of Cool Jazz Conversations. Big shout to our special guest, Tony Saunders. This program is a production of TVM Productions and is broadcast on its home of WSSB 90.3 FM at South Carolina State University. You can listen to the podcast of this program via iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Alexa, Amazon Music, Player FM, pretty much anywhere. And also at cooljazzconversations.podbean.com. You can download it there. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Cool Jazz Conversations. My name is Marcellus, Shepard, the Bassman. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time here on Cool Jazz Conversations. Peace.